Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today. We're delighted to be joined by so many distinguished guests, including White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, Deputy Energy Secretary Dan Brouillette, and CEQ Chairman Mary Newmeyer, members of Congress, labor unions, business leaders, and many others. Thank you all for joining us today. We are gathered here today to deliver on one of President Trump's core priorities, ensuring the American public has access to affordable, reliable energy in a manner that continues our nation's environmental progress. One of the President's first acts in office was to issue an executive order to promote energy independence. In it, he instructed EPA to rescind, replace, or revise the Clean Power Plan. The CPP would have asked low and middle income Americans to bear the cost of the previous administration's climate plan. One analysis projected double-digit electricity price increases in 40 states under the CPP. Rising energy prices hurt low and middle income Americans the most, particularly senior citizens and minorities. It also hurts the competitiveness of American businesses. Because of the significant harm CPP would have had on states and the American public, 27 states, 24 trade associations, 3 labor unions, and 37 rural electric co-ops challenged it. The Supreme Court intervened and issued an historic stay, which resulted in the Clean Power Plan never having taken effect. We are gathered here today because the American public elected a president with a better approach, and today we are fulfilling his directive. The Affordable Clean Energy Rule, ACE, gives states the regulatory certainty they need to continue to reduce emissions and provide affordable and reliable energy for all Americans. Unlike the CPP, the ACE rule adheres to the 4 corners of the Clean Air Act. EPA sets the best system of emission reductions, and then states set the standards of performance. This is how the Clean Air Act says the process should work. ACE specifically identifies heat rate improvements as the best system of emission reduction for coal-fired power plants, and these improvements can be made at individual facilities. Also contained within the rule are new implementing regulations for ACE and future existing source rules under Clean Air Act Section 111D. These guidelines will inform states as they set unit-specific standards of performance. For example, states can take a particular source's remaining useful life and other factors into account when establishing a standard of performance for that source. These provisions will give states and the private sector the regulatory certainty they need to invest in new technologies that increase energy efficiency and reduce emissions. That means cleaner and more affordable energy for the American public. From 2005 to 2017, total U.S. energy-related CO2 emissions fell by 14%. We owe much of this progress to the genius of the private sector and the free markets, not the heavy hand of government. That is a testament to the ingenuity and achievements of many of the folks in this room today. Thank you for your leadership and hard work. The ACE rule will continue our nation's top environmental progress. When ACE is fully implemented, we expect to see the U.S. power sector reduce CO2 emissions by as much as 35% below 2005 levels. We also expect ACE to reduce sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter emissions. EPA projects that ACE will result in annual net benefits of anywhere between $120 million to $730 million. And here's the bottom line. ACE will continue our nation's environmental progress, and it will do so legally and with proper respect for the states. The ACE rule will be implemented in 3 steps. Step 1, EPA sets the best system of emissions reductions for existing power plants. To be clear, EPA is not setting a presumptive standard of performance. States will be given the flexibility to design a plan that best suits their local environmental and energy needs. Step 2, each state will have 3 years to submit a plan that establishes a standard of performance that falls within EPA's guidelines. This timeline is in line with other state planning deadlines under the Clean Air Act. Step 3, once a state plan is submitted, EPA will have 12 months to approve it. We will work closely with the states as they develop their plans. The contrast between our approach and the Green New Deal, or plans like it, couldn't be clearer. Rather than Washington telling Americans what type of energy they can use, or how they can travel, or even what they can eat, we are working cooperatively with the states to provide an affordable, dependable, and diverse supply of energy that continues to get cleaner and more efficient. The importance of reliable and affordable energy cannot be understated. The recent power outage in South America, impacting over 40 million people, is a clear reminder. Our hospitals, schools, drinking water systems, and so many other vital services rely on a constant and dependable supply of electricity. Take this away, and our nation's health and safety are at risk. As first responders, EPA staff are on the ground helping communities recover from emergencies and natural disasters. And one of the first things we do is to make sure that the electric grid is back up and running. Most people don't realize that the electric grid powers their drinking water systems. The reality is there are certain types of energy sources that are conducive to rapid recovery and grid stability, and there are others that are not. As the CEO of Exxon Energy said in a recent interview, "I can't shut down coal plants and just replace them with renewables and have a reliable grid. You can legislate physics, but physics will follow their own rules." But don't take my word or his word for it. Let's look at real-world examples. According to research from the Energy Futures Initiative, founded by former Obama Energy Secretary Ernest Moniz, the state of California went 90 days with little or no wind generation in 2017. This includes multiple stretches when wind wasn't available for several days at a time. There are also days when the wind and solar combined could not meet peak demand. On top of this, California's appetite for renewables has caused electricity prices in that state to jump roughly 25% since 2013. As our lives become more digitized and more dependent on a constant stream of electricity, it's no secret that Americans want reliable energy that they can afford. And that's what we're helping to deliver today. We can't deny the fact that fossil fuels will continue to be a key part of the energy mix both at home and abroad. Coal use is rising worldwide, driven in large parts by India, China, and other Asian nations. We mine and use our coal in the United States in a cleaner fashion than our international competitors. Think about the progress we have made. From 1990 to 2018, annual emissions of sulfur dioxide from coal-fired power plants fell by over 90%, while emissions of nitrogen oxides fell by over 80%. And in the past decade alone, mercury emissions from power plants have decreased by nearly 90%. In addition, the U.S. has some of the lowest fine particulate matter levels in the world, more than 5 times below the global average, 7 times below Chinese levels, and well below France, Germany, Mexico, and Russia. Rather than punishing U.S. production and yielding the marketplace to Chinese coal, which is what the Obama Clean Power Plan did, we are leveling the playing field and encouraging innovation and technology across the sector. We set the gold standard for cleaner technologies here in the United States. If we don't develop the next generation of clean coal technologies here in the U.S., no one else will. It's important to remember that our technologies are exported to developing countries and others. The Obama administration basically froze all future clean coal technologies to the detriment of millions in China and India. We want to export our cleaner energy and technology so that we can improve lives while driving down emissions and air pollution worldwide. This is a path to true international environmental protection. We can improve lives right now by exporting our energy and pollution control technology worldwide. This is precisely what President Trump and his administration are focused on. Our ACE rule will incentivize new technologies that will ensure coal plants can be part of a cleaner future. As we stand here today, the United States is the #1 energy producer in the world. At the same time, we've reduced our carbon emissions and improved air quality and public health. The ACE rule will continue our nation's progress. Thank you for your time and for your attention, and thank you for joining us on this important day. At this time, I'd like to invite White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, Deputy Energy Secretary Dan Briette, and CEQ Chairman Mary Newmeyer to join me on the stage as I sign the final ACE rule. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. We're delighted to be joined by White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. President Trump first nominated him to serve as OMB Director, and he was confirmed by the Senate in February of 2017. The President then called on him to take on the additional role of Acting Director of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and in December, named him as the Acting White House Chief of Staff. Please join me in welcoming White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney.
I'm going to steal this, Andrew, and give this to the president. Ordinarily, you come to the Oval Office and the president signs something. He gives away the pens. I'm going to give this one to him tonight when he gets back. I was talking to some colleagues of mine before I came in here about what I should say today, and the two inputs I got Rodney Davis wanted me to remind everybody that Rodney Davis is a tremendous baseball player and is going to guarantee a Republican win in the game next week. And Frank Lucas pointed out that I should say that this is yet another example of the president doing exactly what he said he would do when he ran for office. And he's right. There was a reason that the president talked specifically about the Clean Power Plant rule when he ran for office, because not only was it illegal, which is something that was confirmed by the Supreme Court, it's a tax on ordinary, hardworking, tax-paying Americans, and it's just wrong. And he didn't like that very much. I remember when we came into office, he told Andrew, look, this is one of my highest priorities. Let's go out and get it done. And I'm extraordinarily proud to be here today as that actually happens. The President and the administration took a lot of heat when we pulled out of the Paris Accords. I guess it was over a year ago now. We said then, and we'll say now, and we'll say again as long as people will let us, actions speak louder than words. We pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords. What has happened since then? I think our CO2 production output is either flat or down in a growing economy. Our economy is getting bigger. People are producing more, factories are open more, people are driving to work more, yet our pollutants are going down. Compare that to some of our European and our Asian friends who are still signatories to the Accords, who have slowing economies and their CO2 output is going up. Actions speak louder than words. So this is one of the many actions this administration has taken. It's helping make things better for ordinary people. And because of what you've done with the Affordable Clean Energy Plan, we're going to see continued reductions in nitrous oxides, continuous reduction in fine particulate matter, continuous reductions in mercury and CO2. Those are the actions that speak louder than words. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for following through on behalf of the president on one of his priorities. And all I can say on behalf of an entire grateful administration is keep up the good work. Thanks very much, Andrew.
Now I'd like to ask Deputy Secretary Dan Briette from the Department of Energy to please come up. Thank you.
It's okay to clap. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. It's a real pleasure to be with you today to celebrate this momentous event. The Department of Energy is a very proud partner with our colleagues at the EPA and other federal agencies in promoting energy innovation and environmental stewardship. And we're pleased to be demonstrating through the ACE rule that innovation and stewardship can be done while still reducing regulations that stifle economic growth. Unlike the plan that it replaces, this rule regulates carbon emissions from our nation's power plants in a manner that it's consistent with the structure and the intent of the Clean Air Act. In other words, we're following the law as we continue to improve the quality of our air. Too often and for too long, Washington has relied on overreaching regulations designed not only to micromanage the entire energy sector, but to actually eliminate certain fuel sources. Under President Trump's leadership, those days are behind us, and this administration is dedicated to pursuing policies that are truly all of the above and make all of our energy sources cleaner and more efficient. As the administrator pointed out, that we're already a global leader in reducing energy-related carbon emissions, and at DOE, we're seeing this all of the above policy work in action through the leadership of our 17 national laboratories. We're working closely with our partners in both the public and the private sectors to research new energy technologies, and a prime example of this is the excellent work that's already underway on carbon capture, utilization, and storage, or CCUS, which will make our domestic coal fleet more efficient. This era of historic oil and gas abundance, renewable energy advances, and the truly amazing strides that our R&D and technological breakthroughs have taken are a testament to the power of innovation and entrepreneurship. We are proud to champion a rule that will continue this legacy for the good of our economy, our consumers, and our nation's energy security. Thank you for allowing me to join you, Andy.
I'd like to now call on CEQ Chairman Mary Newmeyer.
I'd like to thank Administrator Wheeler for the invitation to be here today, and I want to commend the EPA for the work it has done to carry out its mission to protect human health and the environment by developing the Affordable Clean Energy Rule. With the issuance of this rule, EPA is delivering on the President Trump's promise to the American people to eliminate the overreaching Clean Power Plan, which exceeded the bounds of the Clean Air Act. This final rule comes after EPA undertook a detailed review of the law, policy, science, and technical information and conducted a robust regulatory process. The rule is informed by public input, including thousands of comments from interested stakeholders from across the country. The Affordable Clean Energy Rule recognizes states' abilities to set their own performance standards for power plants, promotes energy independence, and supports economic growth and job creation. The rule, along with the long-term industry trends, is projected to reduce emissions while ensuring that the American people have affordable and reliable energy. As has been said, access to affordable and dependable energy is critical to public health and the quality of life of all Americans. Under President Trump's leadership, we will continue to promote and advance policies that support energy reliability and diversity while protecting the environment and ensure that regulations are consistent with statutory text and congressional intent. Thank you again for the invitation to be here. The Council on Environmental Quality looks forward to continuing to work with EPA to improve the quality of the environment.
And now I'd like to ask Bill Wareham, the Assistant Administrator for Air and Radiation, to come to the podium and introduce our other speakers. But I want to publicly thank Bill and his whole team in the Air Office for all the hard work that they did in getting this regulation to final today. Thank you very much, Bill, and thank you to your whole team.
Good morning. I'm very, very pleased to be here and see the consummation of the hard work that we've done in proposing and ultimately finalizing the Affordable Clean Energy Rule. My job is to give you a very brief overview of what the rule is. The administrator did a fine job of that in his remarks, so I won't try to repeat that too much. But what we're doing here is actually three things in one. Number one, and maybe most importantly, is we're rescinding the Clean Power Plan. And we're rescinding the Clean Power Plan because it has fundamental legal flaws that just cannot be reconciled under what the Clean Air Act clearly directs us to do, and the clear limits on the authority that are provided in the Clean Air Act. So step number one is to rescind. Step number two is to replace, and that's actually the guts of the Affordable Clean Energy Rule. And, the replacement really is three pieces. The most important piece is our determination of what best technology is. And as the administrator said, best technology is efficiency improvements at existing coal-fired power plants. Step number 3 is to change the way this particular part of the Clean Air Act is implemented. And really the most important part of that is to rebalance the relative roles and responsibilities of the states and federal government. The Clean Power Plan, I like to say, was way too federal heavy. EPA assumed responsibility it doesn't have under the law. EPA instructed states to achieve particular emissions reductions targets and gave the states no flexibility in what those targets should be. That goes beyond EPA's authority, and what we've done in this rule is rebalanced our roles and responsibilities so that we stay in our lane and we give states the responsibility and authority that they have under the law. Very important thing. So if you're interested, I encourage you to take a look at the rule. A lot of hard work went into it. As Administrator Wheeler said, rules like this are a product of a whole lot of time and effort. So the last thing I wanted to do before introducing our following speakers is offer my profound thanks and gratitude to the staff within the Office of Air and Radiation, within the Office of General Counsel, within other offices within the agency. This truly is a team effort to get a rule like this done. They're scientists, they're analysts, they're modelers, they're engineers, dozens and dozens of people put a lot of hard work into this. We're here to take credit for that work, but nevertheless, those are the people that deserve the real credit for getting this done. So thank you very much. So with that, we have several other folks that would like to make remarks this morning, and we'll start with Congressman Shimkus. Please step up.
Well, I think everything's been said that I think many of us will continue to mention. I want to go over three things. First of all, the Clean Power Plan was illegal, and it was ruled that way by the Supreme Court after 27 states filed lawsuit against it. So in respect to let's fix it, let's replace it, and that's what we did, you all did with due diligence and the great workforce that you have here. Reduction in CO2 is projected, reduce more SO2, NOx, particulate matter, mercury. Efficiency, technology, and I think the thing we want to take home is that there are, if implemented appropriately, working with the states, the return on investment for jobs and the economy and the environment will not be understated based upon what you all have done in the ACE rule, and I appreciate it, and it was great. Thanks for having me come down.
Thank you, Congressman. Now we'll invite up Congresswoman Miller.
Good morning. Administrator Wheeler, Chairman Newmeyer, colleagues, friends, and distinguished guests. What an honor it is to join you here today to finally replace the failed Clean Power Plan once and for all. I applaud you for bringing forth the Affordable Clean Energy Rule, and I am so excited about what it will do for West Virginia and our surrounding states. Thanks to the commitment and support from this administration, my district, which was so devastated by Obama's war on coal, is finally bouncing back. Several of our mines are reopened and our miners are working again. The Affordable Clean Energy Rule takes great steps in ensuring that the mines will stay open by giving the power back to the states, restoring the rule of law, and supporting America's energy diversity and affordability. As I continue to fight for West Virginia energy in Congress, I am so grateful for the amazing partners that we have in our federal agencies who are working with us to protect our grid and to ensure that coal will continue to keep our lights on and our houses warm. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Now we'll invite up Congressman McKinley.
Good morning. Chairman Wheeler, Administrator Wheeler, thank you. Thank you for your hard work with us. Let me just start by saying just very quickly with this, whether people like it or not, some of the extremists in Congress and around the country, coal is going to be, it's crucial. It's critical to have grid reliability and resiliency. Keep in mind, the Clean Power Plan had little or no effect on the environment. But the reality was, it was devastating to our coal industry across America, coal country. As chairman of the Coal Caucus, I'm very intimately involved in how that impact would have with it. Now, how do we know that it was ravaging? Look at the remarks that Gina McCarthy and Lisa Jackson, her predecessor, what they were saying about it. It's not going to have an impact on it. But what it did was shut down our coal industry across America. So I think what we want to do, I think we've got to protect our grid. I think we've got it in jeopardy right now. We've had too many times on Energy and Commerce where we've had hearings where they've talked about, if we lose coal, we've got some real problems. Even Secretary Muniz said as much, that we're not ready for renewable energy. It's coming, and it should be coming, but we don't have, the research is not there yet for reliability. So we need coal. And so this, my hat's off. We could do something in the meantime. Perhaps, maybe what Administrator Wheeler should have done, or could have done, was fought on the endangerment findings. But that was going to be a complicated, long process. I think what they've done is significant. They've indicated, let's compromise, let's come just out with a replacement for something that was found to be illegal. Let's find a way to replace it with a new plan rather than get caught up in courts for years. Let's work on this ACE. Now, what will happen with it? I think it's what's particularly unique. It gives us time in those laboratories that they were talking about. The 17 laboratories with National Energy Technology Laboratory to develop energy efficiency, carbon capture, heat rates, all those things during these next coming years. We're going to develop something that makes it more energy efficient with it. So this buys us time, and my hat's off, because it will also ensure that our environment finally will get cleaner than what we were being proposed under the Clean Power Plan, because it wasn't about the environment, it was about jobs. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Congressman. Now we'll call up Congressman Gianforte, please.
Administrator Wheeler, thank you for the invitation to be here today. This is a good day. I so appreciate the work that the EPA has done, along with President Trump, to repeal the Clean Power Plan and help end this war on coal. The Clean Power Plan was an unconstitutional federal overreach, limiting the flexibilities for the states like my home state of Montana. The Affordable Clean Energy Rule is welcome because it focuses on improving efficiency at existing facilities as the best way to reduce emissions. This can allow existing facilities to operate more economically and extend their useful lives. Many coal plant closures occur due to the Clean Power Plan. This new rule is a very significant step in the right direction. The Montana Public Service Commission, who regulates my state's utilities, have endorsed it because it's a good rule. They believe it appropriately recognizes the authority of the states and limits the emission reduction authority of the federal government. I welcome the Affordable Clean Energy Rule that will help reduce emissions, maintain state authority and flexibility, and recognizes the important role that innovation and modernization can play in our existing coal generation facilities, and it's a great privilege to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Congressman Johnson.
Well, thank you very much, Administrator Wheeler, and all of our guests here today. So many friends to this effort. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I'm honored to be here. Today's a very, very big day for the people I represent in eastern and southeastern Ohio. It's home to an abundance of energy resources, including coal and natural gas. So it probably doesn't come as a surprise to anyone that I strongly supported President Trump's decision to formally end the coal job-killing set of regulations that President Obama put in place. And I'm glad that the current leadership here at the EPA understands that we can have smart environmental regulations and protect coal jobs and our economy at the same time. These goals are not mutually exclusive. The Obama-era rule was never about protecting the environment. Rather, it was more about executive overreach, more regulations, and targeting specific fossil fuel industries. Put simply, it was an attempt to shut down the coal industry. We all know that. At the time the Clean Power Plan was rolled out, Ohio's EPA director stated that the proposed rule would, and I quote, unnecessarily threaten electric reliability, reduce manufacturing and coal mining employment, and increase electric rates. He was right, and the previous administration knew he was right, but that didn't stop them. During the 2016 campaign, President Trump made ending the war on coal a major component of his platform. He's keeping that promise. Today's announcement is a big step toward that goal, and it will help protect the good-paying jobs that so many hardworking families that I represent are dependent upon. This new rule will allow states to do their own enforcement. That's the right thing to do. Those of us that live and work in areas experiencing a surge in energy development like eastern and southeastern Ohio, we know what works best for our environment and the livelihood of our people. The states have been doing this successfully for a very long time. The Ohio EPA should be allowed to do its job. We all want to breathe clean air and drink clean water. But we have to do it in a responsible way, and I'm confident that today's announcement paves the way for the kind of regulatory certainty that states and the private sector need to confidently invest in new technologies and continue to produce affordable, reliable energy. The federal government needs to be a partner in progress, not a constant barrier to energy development. We need common sense regulations that protect our national security, public health, and public safety while positively advancing a vibrant and growing private sector economy for America. That's what we're getting today. So thank you to President Trump, to Administrator Wheeler for your leadership, and to everyone who helped get us to this point today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Congressman Thompson.
Well, good morning, everyone. What a privilege and honor to be here today. Administrator Wheeler, and to you, to President Trump, and to your staff that work so hard in such a discerning way, thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for what you've done to rescind the CPP, the coal punishment plan, and put forward the ACE role, affordable clean energy role. You know, it's hard to believe, but 11 years ago, I came to Washington with the privilege and honor of representing Pennsylvania's 15th Congressional District. So I'm here on behalf of the Keystone State in Pennsylvania today. And I left a career of 28 years working in healthcare. And within healthcare, there were some rules that I adhered to. There were principles my staff adhered to. Number one was to do no harm. Number two, in setting goals to take on difficult tasks, you always, when you set your goals, you want to make them attainable, you want to make them realistic, and you want to make them measurable. We've heard a lot of difference between CPP and the new and improved regulation of ACE, but I think a lot of that to me comes down to those two principles. ACE Act does no harm. ACE Act it presents itself in a way, that regulation, so that it is attainable, it is realistic, and it is measurable. CPP was none of those things. And so thank you. Thank you for what you've accomplished. I am from Pennsylvania. You know, my home state and Appalachia broadly has, of course, a long history of mining that we're very proud of. Our mining fueled the Industrial Revolution and helped us win 2 world wars. And so I never will apologize for that heritage. It's a wonderful thing. Particularly coal production. Currently, Pennsylvania has over 11,000 coal mining jobs and over 40,000 indirect jobs relating to coal mining in the Keystone State. The Commonwealth also receives some 31% of our electrical generation from coal, and the Clean Power Plan would have cut emissions from PA power plants by some 32%, largely by just closing and diminishing our availability of affordable and reliable electricity. The Pennsylvania has been hit hard in recent years due to the overreaching regulations and market pressures on both coal mining and coal-fired power plants. And as American energy production and electrical generation evolves, it's critical that we continue to support a diverse energy mix and baseload power, which includes continued use of coal. Now, this rule will still encourage carbon emission to decline, but does it in a way that is realistic, it's measurable, it's attainable, while ensuring that the energy reliability and affordability of this country remains, that we keep the lights on. I much appreciate the common sense role that the EPA is implementing to ensure this certainty and the regulatory flexibility that it offers to our states. And thank you so much for the invitation to be a part of this, what I think is a very historical event and one that is so good for America going forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Congressman Davis.
First off, thank you again, Administrator, and thank you to the President, and just as importantly, thank you to the entire EPA team. This is a big day and a big win for people who work in the coal-fired power plants in my district in central Illinois. My district is the epitome of why we need an all-of-the-above energy approach. It's why we need common sense rules like this that are going to continue to protect our environment, but also protect the jobs that we know are some of the best paying jobs in the communities that I'm blessed to serve. In Springfield, Illinois, just recently, they upgraded one of their coal-fired power plant stacks. They worked with the Sierra Club to do that. And the Obama-era rule would have made that new plant with some of the best technology, it would have made it ineligible to continue to operate if the old rule would have been put in place. This is a common sense approach that affects my district probably more than anyone. Not just 4 coal-fired power plants are in my district. In the same small town of Clinton, Illinois, I have a nuclear facility and a facility that builds windmills. And if you drive Route 51 from Decatur, Illinois to Bloomington, you see wind energy all the way out your driver's side window, the entire road. Couple that with one of the test areas for carbon sequestration. There is a role for coal in this country. There are more mines operating in my district than we had 2 years ago. This is a great first step for some of the best paying jobs in the Midwest. And I, again, cannot say thank you enough, Administrator. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Congressman Griffith.
I am just so excited to be here for a number of reasons. Particularly, I represent an area that is reliant on coal, but that's not the only reason. We have an administration that is attempting to do the right things for the right reasons and, shockingly, within the purviews allowed by the Clean Air Act. As many of you all know, and I've talked about this a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen times in the Energy and Commerce Committee, the Obama administration regulations were not proper. They were illegal, in my opinion. I think the courts ultimately would have ruled if we hadn't had a change in administration and a pullback from those rules, because the code is very clear. You cannot regulate under Section 111D and 112. They're already regulating electric generation units under 112. You can't also regulate under 111D. This makes a huge change in all of that. We step back from that, and what we have is we don't have to worry about, arguing about a Supreme Court footnote, arguing about cases where the EPA said, yeah, we recognize we don't have that right, and then having an administration that says we can go forward no matter what. In contrast, the Affordable Clean Energy Rule will reduce pollution from the energy sector while working, as my friend Mr. Davis just said, while working within the EPA's authority, respecting the role of the states, and making sure that we can move forward using coal, but making sure that we're doing it in a much better process, and as we go forward, not just targeting coal mining and coal facilities, but making sure that we're following the law and cleaning up the air at the same time. This rule lets states be the laboratories. EPA will determine a list of technologies that have been adequately demonstrated to be suitable as a best system of emission reduction. States will establish standards of performance to reduce emissions based on what power sources they have and what investments they can make. The EPA is giving them options as they develop the plan to establish standards, not telling them what must be in the plan. This rule keeps the EPA's focus where it should be, on cleaner air, not just on how can we make regulations that will put the coal mining industry out of business. Folks, this is important. I want to thank you, Administrator Wheeler, and your whole team for the careful, thoughtful process that led to this rule and giving stakeholders an opportunity and a seat at the table to make sure that we make things better for the United States air quality and continue to have high-paying, good-quality jobs. Thank you all very much. Appreciate being here today.
Thank you, Congressman. Now we'll invite up Mr. Bill Bessette from the West Virginia Chamber of Commerce.
Before I share my remarks, I want to recognize some people in this room who work every day to keep the lights on. The coal miners are here with us. Let's thank them. Thank you all for being here. There you go. Stand up. We appreciate what you do. I represent my home state, a portion of West Virginia that doesn't mind coal, but is absolutely connected to the production and use of coal for indirect jobs in our economy. We've seen in the past 2.5 years optimism. We've seen an economy that's working right now, but it's fragile. Why? Because we're uncertain of the future of coal production and use in our state. Same with natural gas. Administrator Wheeler, what you're doing today provides optimism back home. It provides a security that we're going to power West Virginia and power this country with coal and natural gas. What works for one state doesn't always work for another state. California may like things, that's fine, but in West Virginia, we overwhelmingly support coal and natural gas. What you're doing provides stability, it provides hope, and a future for our economy. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Next up, Mr. Donnie Colston, President of Unions for Jobs.
Good morning, Administrator Wheeler, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Donnie Colston. I'm the Director of Utilities for International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. But I'm appearing here as the President of Unions for Jobs and Environmental Progress, an association of 8 national and international energy-related unions. Our members primarily work in electric generation, construction, operations, maintenance, rail transportation, coal mining, We support EPA's affordable clean energy rule that will replace the Clean Power Plan. Our member unions were active in the development of the original Clean Power Plan. We were concerned about its outside-the-fence approach, effectively mandating that utilities switch from coal to natural gas and renewables. It's an adverse job impacts among workers and communities. Several of our members joined in the legal challenges to the rule, which was stayed by the Supreme Court. We support the inside-the-fence approach that EPA is adopting for the state-driven, unit-specific program to improve the efficiency and reduce emissions of plants subject to the replacement rule. These investments can create thousands of jobs, improve worker safety, and enhance energy efficiency while reducing CO2 emissions and other air pollutants. This rule is a win-win for jobs and the environment. We are gratified that EPA is also moving to address the new source reform needs through a separate rulemaking. NSR reforms will complement the state's efforts to achieve real emission reductions, efficiency gains through the Affordable Clean Energy Rule. Thank you very much, Administrator.
Thanks for your remarks. Ms. Michelle Bloodworth, President of ACE.
Well, hello, my name is, as Bill said, is Michelle Bloodworth, and I'm CEO of America's Power. Many of you know it as ACE. We advocate on behalf of coal-fueled electricity and also the coal fleet. I certainly want to thank Administrator Wheeler and also Bill and the entire EPA staff for how tirelessly they have worked on this rule. Let me start out by saying that we commend, in a large way, EPA for finalizing the ACE rule to replace the Clean Power Plan. The Clean Power Plan was in many ways the poster child for bad regulation. The Clean Power Plan was in many ways also, it was illegal, it was ineffective, it was expensive, and most importantly, it would have caused more premature retirement of fuel-secure coal-fired generating plants. The ACE rule follows the law. The Clean Power Plan did not. The ACE rule is certainly noteworthy for several reasons. First, it respects the role of states. We've heard that a lot today. Second, it provides states with the flexibility to develop reasonable carbon dioxide standards for each of the coal-fired generating units. Third, by relying on inside-the-fence efficiency improvements to set those standards, the rule is legal under the Clean Air Act. And last, I would point out that the flexibility it provides to the states to set those reasonable standards for each of those coal generating units will avoid the premature retirement of more coal-fired generating units. Avoiding additional retirements is so important given that 40% of the coal fleet has either retired or announced retirement, and we expect under the Clean Power Plan there certainly would have been a lot more. Our nation's coal fleet is essential to maintaining grid reliability, resilience, and most importantly, fuel security. Let me close by commending EPA for not attempting to use environmental policy to drive energy policy outcomes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kevin Sunday, Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. There he is.
Well, thank you, Administrator Wheeler, Assistant Administrator Wareham, and President Trump, and everyone's staff here working on this important historic event. definitely a privilege and an honor to represent the 10,000 members of the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry. We're the largest business advocacy organization in the state of Pennsylvania, which is the second largest energy producer in the country, second nuclear power producer, second in shale gas, fourth in coal production. We're also home to the headquarters of the PGM, which is the largest grid operator in the world. We're also home to National Energy Technology Labs, where our members are supporting innovations into carbon capture and storage. We commend EPA for taking into consideration the many concerns that were raised about the Clean Power Plan. When that rule was first unveiled, the PA Chamber warned that the increased costs associated with it would jeopardize our state's position as an energy leader. And as such, the PA Chamber was the lead named party in a 166 party brief with other state chambers and manufacturing groups that urged the Supreme Court to overturn that rule, which they did. The rule was clearly defective. And our state, having long exhibited a global leadership role in coal, gas, nuclear, and renewables, we've shown in Pennsylvania that a free and competitive energy market will deliver the emissions reductions when individuals and businesses are free to choose which energy source best fits their needs, and the federal government is not picking winners and losers. By setting standards that were not achievable at individual facilities, the Clean Power Plan was overly aggressive and far-reaching and would have not resulted in any meaningful reductions in global carbon emissions. As the prior administration's final regulatory documents noted, the Clean Power Plan did not encourage the extension of nuclear power plants, nor did it would have also diminished the production and use of shale gas, which strengthened Pennsylvania's economy and the environment. And the Clean Power Plan would have also paved the way for similar aggressive regulations on a wide swath of industry. The ACE rule, on the other hand, gives states greater flexibility to determine how to comply with performance standards, and we welcome this shift as each state has the ability to recognize their unique energy landscapes. Our diverse portfolio in Pennsylvania means a stronger country with energy independence, and we are sending our energy, meeting the needs of not just Pennsylvania and the region, but the United States and our allies abroad, and we can't overstate that message enough. Now that we see increased regulatory certainty from Washington, our members are going to continue to invest and develop solutions to meet our energy and environmental needs now and into the 21st century. Thank you again for this opportunity, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stuart Spencer, Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality.
Good morning. I'm actually here in a few capacities today, so you can just view me as the human embodiment of the state component of the cooperative federalism dynamic. First, I'll say I send regards from my director, Becky Keogh, director of Arkansas DEQ. She's also the current president of ECOS, the Environmental Council of the States. She sends her well wishes to EPA and her thanks and congratulations for putting out this rule and the expeditious and deliberate speed with which you did it. And also I represent APCA, the Association of Air Pollution Control Agencies. I'm the past president, was president last year, and we represent 22 states and 25 local members. And I can tell you that as a state organization, we value certainty. We value engagement. And we value something that's going to be a regulation that's going to be protective and have common sense results. And we think, we look forward to reading this rule. We think this gets us to that point. I want to brag on Arkansas for a little bit. I'm the Associate Director at ADEQ over the Office of Air Quality. We are the natural state. We're in full attainment of all criteria, with all criteria pollutants for the NAAQS. We also have a diverse energy portfolio. We enjoy coal, nuclear, wind, solar, runs the gamut, hydro, natural gas. And we also are home to the John W. Turk plant in Southwest Arkansas, AEP SWEPCO facility, which is the only ultra supercritical coal-fired plant in the United States. So we welcome this rule. We look forward to reading it, and we look forward to getting to work implementing it. And thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay, so we had one more speaker, Secretary Snavely of the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet. Unfortunately, his flight got canceled this morning and he was unable to make it here with us personally, but he asked that we read some remarks that he intended to present. So, on behalf of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and Governor Matt Bevin, Secretary Snavely says that Kentucky appreciates the effort and the thought that the EPA has put into the development of the Affordable Clean Energy Rule. Kentucky has a strong manufacturing economy that is robust and growing. Many of the products that are manufactured in Kentucky are essential to our national security and the nation's economy. Kentucky is a world leader in the aerospace industry. It's currently the third largest automobile manufacturer in the United States. And Kentucky melts, casts, and molds more than 50% of the aluminum produced in the U.S. and more than 35% of the nation's stainless steel. To the point, Kentucky makes things that enable other states in the nation to grow their economies and improve their quality of life. So for Kentucky, electricity is important. Cost is important. Reliability is important. And the rule of law is important. Kentucky believes the Affordable Clean Energy Rule addresses these priorities while achieving the goal of emissions reductions. So we appreciate Secretary Snavely's willingness to be here and are sorry that he had travel difficulties. So that marks the end of our program here. I'll thank you all again for being here. We very much appreciate the fact that you're here to help us celebrate the finalization of ACE, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you.